Hello, 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 my beautiful dancing unicorns. Welcome back, you guys, to AG University podcast. Today, I have on an extraordinary guest. All of my guests are wonderful and lovely, but this is one of my true best friends, my soul sister, Tiana Gidley. We met, honestly, I think it was like the second or third week that I moved to Nashville, and we were pretty much like, do you want to be best friends? And from that moment on, we have been besties. She is the friend that I can always call for anything, no matter what's going on in my life, and she always just gets it. She meets me there. She can go there with me. Everyone needs a Tiana in their life. She is someone who is such an eloquent speaker, which you guys are about to hear. She sends out these curated newsletters every week that are literally like poetry. I mean, she's an incredible writer. She's so multi-talented that I just need you guys to know her. She's a writer. She's created and founded Tiana Gidley Creative, which is a creative initiative all about helping other creatives launch their vision and bring their brand to life. And her mission is helping people get clarity. She always does these incredible, she designed my website and we did a brand intensive together. That's something else I need to bring her back on to talk more about the brand intensive process. But she just makes someone feel so seen, so heard, and so understood. So getting clarity is her specialty. She's very energetically gifted. I feel that's another reason we have been divinely placed together in each other's lives. And she created a journal, which we're going to talk about in this episode as well, like our journal practice and how that looks and how it's evolved over the years. But I'm going to go ahead and link that journal in the show notes. Tiana is just a true Renaissance woman, and she is also my friend that inspires me to ask thoughtful questions at dinner parties. You know, she always has like the best questions to just ask people, like makes everyone go around the table. In every dinner experience I've ever had with Tiana there, everyone's like, this is the best dinner ever, and everyone just feels like they've bonded. And I'm like, yeah, that's the Tiana effect. She's just a magical, sparkly angel and my bestie, and also a business owner and a friend and a wife, and just such an inspiration to me. I'm honored that she is on the show today. There's so much juicy goodness here. So without further ado, on behalf of AG University, Tiana Gidley, let's go. I am so excited. I just squeaked.
Me
you
too.
Guys, Tiana Gidley in the house, in the flesh, in my presence, my best friend, the most beautiful soul, and truly someone who's been with me from the start of my spiritual evolution. So an honor, a pleasure. Thank you for being here, Tiana.
Not me already crying. I'm just looking over at you crying.
Stop. I feel like I am going to cry because I've missed you so much.
I know, truly. It's just an honor to be here. I relish any opportunity that I get to spend with you, and to be here in this space that you've owned and just captivated people through. It feels like the biggest honor.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I love you.
I love you. Truly. You guys, Tiana and I met seriously 3 weeks into when I moved to Nashville. We met and through Bumble BFF, because Tiana was working on the brand side, setting up events. And do you want to tell them how you came across me first?
Well, I don't know.
I can't really remember.
I'm sitting here listening to you tell the story, and I just can't help but think how divine everything was, because all of a sudden you were just on my radar. And Natalie, who was the person above me at Bumble, kind of coordinating the team that did events throughout the US, was looking for somebody to help with events. And I don't know what made me think of you, but all of a sudden I was just like, maybe Anna Grace would be a great candidate. And she was like, okay, great. I'll like look into her. And then the next day, I think it was the very next day, I met you at a Bumble event.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, there she is.
They had like a little Bumble influencers candle making, which was so fun. And I just moved to Nashville, so I was like, I want to meet all the people. And then we ran into each other, and I was like, oh, I love her. She's so nice, and her energy feels so yummy.
You know what's so funny is that's exactly what I was gonna say about you. I was thinking about that moment. It was like I had a flashback, right? And see, there's me saying right a lot.
It's okay.
But yeah, and I just remember thinking that girl is so grounded in who she is. She knows herself. And I think at the time I was very ungrounded in who I was. And I don't know, something about you was just so infectious and so light-filled and radiant. And I remember you came up to me. You were like, I'm Anna Grace. And I don't think at that time I would have ever had the confidence to just come up to you because you had already had a presence, a following at that time. And I clearly had known, who you were through the internet. And I just remember at the moment that you said something, everything just melted away. And I just felt like I knew you. And for some reason, the universe just kept bringing us back together time and time again until here we are.
Until now, there's nothing that you could do to shake me. I'm like,
ditto.
Until we're like, we've decided this is a forever. But it was so cool that as soon as I moved here, you were the first person that I was like, oh my gosh, she gets it. Because it was at the start of my spiritual awakening and this whole journey. And all of this was brand new to me. And I didn't have anyone in my life that I could talk to about this or was even really interested. It's not that I didn't feel like I could talk. It's just, it's not fun when someone's like, interesting.
Totally.
Weird.
Totally.
You were just like, me too.
Totally. Well, and I think about that too. And, you're, like I said, you've always been so grounded in who you are and you've known yourself. I think for me, I don't know that when I was going through such a spiritual awakening that I would have even categorized it as a spiritual awakening because I was just really curious at the time. And all of a sudden there was this girl, Anna Grace, who was so grounded in herself, who was equally as curious. And so she was like, you had a weird dream last night? Me too. Let's meet at a coffee shop and talk about it.
Truly. And you guys, that was how it started. So Tiana was working on the brand side and they were looking for an influencer to host some Bumble BFF events. And I was like, perfect. I'm looking for friends. I could, shout it out on my Instagram and get some people to come. We can just all connect and meet. So I joined the Bumble team on the brand side. Tiana and I have our first meeting where we were going to talk about Bumble things. Shout out to Bumble for bringing us together. But we get there, we have our journals, and we immediately just bond over wanting to start a dream circle.
Totally.
Which fast forward 5 years later, we manifested like a whole ass serious dream circle that we're in.
Oh my gosh. I totally didn't put that piece together until just now.
Yeah, we've been manifesting things together like our whole friendship.
Totally. And maybe it's just because they seem so natural.
Yeah.
Like they're just natural occurrences in our everyday that sometimes you forget they're these little blessings, these little manifestations from the universe. But really, we've done it 2 years now.
Yeah.
And it's like the highlight of our winter time.
It truly gets us through the winter because we both go see the same therapist. We're like, Mary, we love you.
We love you. Shout out, Mary.
Shout out, Mary. She doesn't listen to any of my content. I've asked her to, but she's like, I can't.
You can tell her at your next session. You're like, we did shout you out.
Yeah. One time she told me I popped up on her TikTok, like just on the For You page. And she's like, I felt like I really violated your privacy.
Oh, see, that's how you know you have a good therapist.
That's right. At one time I did ask her to come on the podcast. Kind of how have you seen Stutz? Is it Stutz?
Oh,
yes.
Is it Stutz? With Jonah Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love him. What a
I
gem.
love him. That was such a good documentary.
You guys
so beautiful.
Gotta watch it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Stutz.
Z, I think.
I was about to say S. I was like, Mary, I just watched this. I'm so inspired. You've got to come on. But she's like, I can't.
You're like, okay, respectfully. Okay.
Okay, respectfully. So Tiana was seeing Mary first. You want to explain to them what our official dream circle is?
Totally. And people ask me all the time. Even I showed a little bit in a YouTube video once and people are like, I still don't get it. What are you doing? I'm like, sometimes I don't quite know, but
this is why we're best friends, because you and I are like, yep, makes perfect sense.
Totally, dream circle. That's it. That's the definition. No, but Mary a lot of her practice is deeply rooted in Jungian concepts, Jungian beliefs, and he was really big into dreams, I believe. And so she has this group of people that she hand selects, just I think based on people who are going to be curious and open to what the world of dreams can open up for you.
Yes. And honestly, highly intelligent group of people.
Oh my gosh, I get so intimidated sometimes because there's so much power, intelligence, coolness in that group. I really love every single person that's a part of it. But there's a formula, there's a structure. So we sit down. Usually Mary does a little intro meditation just to get us settled in our bodies, in the space. And then she opens the floor and anybody who has a dream can share. It doesn't have to be a profound dream. It can really be anything. And they tell the dream twice. And then we, as I don't know, for the audience or the rest of the group, gets to ask clarifying questions. So if there's something we don't understand, we get to add clarity to that. And then we have a section where we get to share what comes up for us. And the point, I think this is what really changed for me in our last dream circle. The point isn't to analyze the other person's dreams and diagnose them with something. The point is to really call on your own experiences, your own intuition, your own symbols that are coming up, and share that. And if the dreamer does latch on to any portion of that, that's a beautiful synchronicity. But the point isn't synchronicity. The point is just to let our subconscious minds, let what's coming up in dreams live somewhere besides our own heads.
Yes. Oh, such a beautiful explanation.
Yeah, it's, I mean, a beautiful practice.
It really is. I wanted to make a TikTok or a video, but I wasn't sure if I could just explain it in a concise manner about how I think this would be such a fun kind of alternative book club or something for you guys listening to do if you have some friends who are just interested in dreams.
Totally.
It doesn't have to be particularly spiritual, by the way, or religious or anything. It's just if you're interested in dreams. I've always been interested in dreams since a young age.
Same.
I was always into Freudian methods and books.
Psychology.
Yes.
Totally. And that's the thing about the dream circle is it's not, I mean, overtly spiritual. It's more about symbolism. And, you know, what does blood mean in this dream? And blood's kind of an extreme example,
Right.
but it could be, you know, one of my dreams was this white cage. And so what does this white cage mean to me? What does it mean to Anna Grace? What does it mean to every single person in this group? Because we've all touched on feelings of being trapped or being, you know, in a situation where we can't be set free or set ourselves free.
Right.
And so it's really finding that overlap of symbolism, not, I mean, and sometimes that is a spiritual or a mystic experience, but it's not always.
And sometimes it really is just so lovely to hold a space, say, hey, I have a dream. And then to have your friends just ask you a lot of questions, because it's that practice of having someone ask us the questions that we're like, we actually have the answers inside of us. Sometimes we're just waiting for someone to ask.
100%. You know me, you know, I believe that through and through. And I don't think we have enough opportunities where we get the chance that other people would ask us these things that are callings, deeper callings on our heart, right? Or at least clues to, doorways to those things. And so Dream Circle's a beautiful opportunity to do that. But I feel like also we do that just in our friendship day to day. It's an important thing. We don't ask ourselves enough questions or others.
And I want to just go ahead and shamelessly plug Tiana made the most beautiful journal. If you guys are new to journaling and you're like, a lot of people will write me being like, I just don't know, what are we saying in the journal?
I know.
Because I'm an avid journaler. Like if I'm happy, I journal gratitude. If I'm sad, I journal my sad feelings. If I'm mad, I'm like, why are you mad? Why did this trigger you? Why did this upset you? So, you know, I'm a seased journaler now because it's been years, but even as a kid, I always had a diary, you know, with those little locks, like always been a writer. I used to write song lyrics, like so many things, honestly, I've forgotten until I've gotten older. And now I remember, I'm like, wow, I actually was doing this intuitively as a child. Totally.
Writing is such a beautiful outlet for whether you want to call it creativity, spirituality. It's just a really beautiful opportunity to let something alchemize through you, right? And it can be cathartic, it can be therapeutic, it can be creative, it can be so many things. I find that through writing too. And I know you do as well, but for some people it could be dance, it could be painting, it's this process of taking something unseen, something ineffable, something intangible, and alchemizing it, turning that nothing into something through you as a conduit or a vessel. It's just a beautiful process, and that process doesn't have to look like anything. It doesn't have to have these concrete type parameters. And I think a lot of times in society, people want to tell us that our creativity, our beliefs, our values, they have to look a certain way. But I really do think that it's through the process of writing that we get more in tune with what that actually looks like for us on our terms, not on the terms of anybody else, you know?
100%.
Yeah, so...
And I think the most beautiful practice, I've gone through 3 of Tiana's journals. I'll link them in the show notes, you guys, by the way. And she can tell us more of how this beautiful journal that she created, not only is it aesthetically stunning, but also she handcrafted, hundreds of prompts. I feel like there's so many. I don't know what the exact number is, but I feel like there's at least 100 there.
Totally. There's a lot of prompts.
There's a lot of prompts for each sector of life. So if you're feeling like, I'm interested in journaling, but I don't know where to start, she's already thought it all through. But I've gone through 3 of her journals full, cover to cover.
Oh, you're so sweet. I love you.
I love you. Yeah. And it's crazy because now I have like a little library of all my journals, and I can look back and go, wow, at this point I was going through this, and now that's just a lesson I've completely overcome. It's really cool to see your evolution.
Totally. And I think that's the whole point of Within, right? I structured it in this way that's really free because, you know, I love guided practices. I love like a 5-minute journal. I love things that give us structure. But I think sometimes when we rely too heavily on that structure, we feed into this idea, like I said, that things should look a certain way. And so Within was really created with this intention of giving you a lot of really good starting points that you can choose intuitively if you so feel called, but also providing a lot of space to allow for your own musings and intuition and inner voice to take the reign. And it really is this beautiful process once you alchemize all of these thoughts and ideas and pains onto the page, having this catalog of who was I at this stage, because I think that's one of the biggest gifts we can give ourselves, right? Is the process of growing and evolving into knowing ourselves more, being a better person, you know, reaching for higher heights. And we really are, at the end of the day, these dynamic human beings. So to have these time capsules, little moments of time, is just a gift, right? To say, that's who I was then, but look how far I've come.
I know. And also being really proud of how much we've stepped into.
Oh my gosh, totally. I forget that a lot of times, to be so proud and grateful for the versions of myself that needed to be strong, that needed to go through some really hard stuff to get to where I am today. And so I think it hits the nail on the head. Those little slices of time we can have really deep reverence for as well. You know?
Oh, 100%. And for anybody listening here, I want you guys to just like all take a quick second and close your eyes and be like, how proud am I of myself for everything that I've overcome?
Totally.
Every struggle, every high, every low, but we're here.
Totally.
And we've all survived.
Totally. Sometimes I have to remind myself to do that. Like, there's this song it's a Maggie Rogers song. It's called Dog Years. And this could be anything for you. Like, you might listen to the song and be like, what is she talking about? But there are these moments where I have to, like, almost self-soothe and remind myself that, like, no, I'm the one that has you, and like, I'm proud of you. I saw what you did there. Because if we wait for that affirmation from other people, from the outside world, even you, Anna Grace, you're my best friend. I love you so much. But if I sat around waiting for your affirmation of what you see in me forever, I would be waiting all the time. You know what I mean? And so I think it is really important that we have those moments that we just acknowledge who we are and the beauty that exists inside of us, even if it's not always perfect or polished or poised. Yeah, there's 100%. So much goodness there.
And I always think about you because I had this random light bulb moment in the shower about our love languages and how yours is words of affirmation. And you guys, one thing about Tiana and I, we know every single one of our friends is love language, human design,
astrology, top 3.
Numerology, such good tools. And also, here's the thing, even if your friends aren't 100% into it, everyone loves to learn about themselves.
Totally.
Great things to ask about your friends.
Totally. Like, that's me. I'm big about space, but that's something about me. Like, different people are going to latch on to different things. For some people, astrology is their thing. That is the tool that they find the most insight about themselves through. For some people, it's journaling. For some people, it's Akashic Records. For some people, it's tarot, you know. For some people, it's the Bible and religion. These are all really beautiful tools because at the end of the day, if you think about it, the Bible is text, you know, on a page, and it's not much different. Well, it's sacred and beautiful, but you infuse meaning to it, right? And that's the same with the stars, right? They're lights in the sky. There's a scientific explanation to them, but you infuse meaning to them, right? And it's about what feels most resonant to you, where you feel most connected to yourself. And so I think to have all of these different tools like human design, like all of these different things, they're just really beautiful opportunities to see what your friends are feeling connected to know them in a different way that feels connected to you. It's just beautiful opportunities if you think about it.
I love that. Opportunities.
Yeah.
And truly, it's just an intention on both of our parts that, hey, we want to know more about you. We want to connect. Even if that's maybe not someone's 100% modality, people still love to hear about it. Like, hey, do you want me to do a little mini human design reading? And they're like, yeah, okay.
Totally. Honestly, like, Akashic Records was something that I wasn't super familiar with before you started kind of diving into the world of Akashic Records. And the more that I got familiarized with what it is and kind of had a reading, the more I realized, like, this is just but one more really beautiful tool for us to know ourselves, for us to feel connected to other human beings. And why not? Why can't we allow ourselves that beautiful gift to know ourselves more deeply if it feels resonant and it feels like something that's calling on our heart?
100%. And I'm so happy that you're taking this conversation this direction, as always, divinely guided, because I find that's been my number one question. People writing in saying, I love what you're saying at AG University. I don't even know what the Akashic Records are, but it feels good when you talk about it. It's all about the feeling.
Totally.
You're like, I don't even know what she's talking about, but I like how it sounds, you know?
Totally.
But there are a lot of people who come from a religious background or come from these places of stricter, you know, ideologies or just ways of upbringings, but they're looking for more connection and in different ways, in nature, in spirituality, in whatever. So what is your best advice to that person? Kind of like what you were just saying, but just go a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's a lot of people out there, right, who have maybe grown up with a specific ideology or a specific structure that felt really good to them then, but they're starting to see glimpses in other places that also feel really good. And I think what you captured in the phrase, it's a feeling, is so important, because I really do feel like if you're looking at a Venn diagram of all these different modalities, right, there's a center that overlaps all of them, right? And it is this feeling, it's this love, it's connectedness, it's knowing yourself, it's feeling anchored, it's peace, it's the antithesis of fear and judgment and all of these things that we always want to cast out, right? I think that lies in the very center. And so I think if somebody was to come and be curious about Akashic Records or about any modality that's maybe a little bit esoteric or uncharted, I would say tap into yourself, give yourself a moment, a beat, a breath to say, does this feel aligned to me? If I'm having fears about this specific modality, are those fears mine? Or did they come from a community that I was raised in? Did they come from a judgment that I am looping in my head from somebody else, right? And so I'm big on that. I really believe that all the answers, like you said, exist inside of us. And that if we give ourselves the time and space to tap in and to see and intuit and feel what's right for us, we'll always find the answers that are most aligned for us, our true calling, our inner being. But we have to give ourselves those moments to listen, to familiarize ourselves with what does that sound like versus what does the rest of the world sound like, and then decide what the best action is based on that.
100%. And I love how you directed us to separate the voice in our head from, is this fear mine? Or does it belong to someone else? Because majority of the time, and even with me going into, I've talked very openly on this podcast how it was very scary for me to tell people, you know, I'm clairvoyant or I'm a medium or I do these modalities. And that was my own past version of self who said, oh, psychics aren't real. Oh, that stuff's blah, 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 blah. Like, I didn't even know. So one, I didn't even have the information, right?
Totally.
Most people don't.
Absolutely.
So I always tell people first, check into some information, see what resonates, see what lands, see if anything sounds good. But then also check in with yourself and say, is this a past narrative of something someone just told me when I was little and it's just running in my head?
Totally. You know, and fear is so powerful. It's so funny. I was journaling just this morning and I kept replaying that phrase from Dune, that fear is the mind killer, because I was like, they were onto something. Fear will keep you trapped. Fear will keep you in that white cage. You have the key to get out, but it will keep you there forever if you let it.
Oh, yeah.
And I also identify as a deeply spiritual person. I have a lot of different practices that feel really resonant to me to get connected to myself, to God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And there have been many times where I'm very afraid to voice that opinion because of the fear of judgment. And I think I was listening to your podcast with Peyton, and you were talking about how everything whittles down to safety. So a fear of judgment is just a fear of being cast out, being unlovable, being unsafe, right? And nobody wants that. But I really think in those moments, something that I've had to learn, because I just got my first hate comment on YouTube. I've been starting to post more on YouTube and I just got my first hate comment.
Wait, I'm so proud, because that means you're doing something right.
Well,
haters mean you're doing something right. Everybody, more trolls equals more money.
That's the conclusion I came to, AG, honestly. And I think there was a time where a past version of me would have been absolutely heartbroken and devastated by some unknown figure saying that I love to hear myself talk, right? That was their comment. And
you're like, also, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Literally.
It's like someone saying Anna Grace talks too much. She has a podcast.
Literally.
Don't listen to the podcast.
Totally. No,
I'm sorry. That's just like people.
I couldn't agree more though, AG. Like the more that I sat there and thought about it, I was like, I've spent the last 15 years silencing myself, trying to be so perfect, speak at the right amount of decibels so that it's not too loud, it's not too quiet. I've tried to be really conscious about how everybody in the room is feeling so that I can make sure I'm not taking up too much space. And you know what? It got me nowhere. I felt more stifled, more just threatened than ever by my own power. And so I was like, you know what? I do like to hear myself talk because I spent the last 15 years silencing myself. And you know what? I got a lot of shit to say. And it's valuable and it's worthwhile. And that's the point, right? You have to believe that what you're saying holds power, because if you don't believe that, nobody else will. It goes back to the Dog Year song by Maggie Rogers. I have to remind myself, Tiana, this person is saying whatever they're saying, but you know why they're saying it? Because something in you is stirring, something sacred, something powerful is stirring something in them that they want to shut down. And you have to be the one to remind yourself when everybody else wants to silence you, you know you have a voice. You know you have something to say. I've got you. Keep going.
Oh, I just had like a visceral reaction to that situation, because I am really coming into this place of everyone shut the fuck up and listen. And it's really like, it is this, I know we've been talking a lot about feminine rage on here, but a lot of our rage is attached to wisdom and this power. And oftentimes it can get a little confusing as to which is anger or power or this or that. But here's the thing. I'm not going to play small anymore.
No.
For years I'd be like, here's the thing. I know in the Akashic Records, that's my zone of genius. That is my zone of genius. I had a meeting last week and I had somebody saying, I don't really know what that is. And maybe we should dumb it down and call it this, whatever. Here's the thing. I'm here to teach people about it.
Totally.
It's my zone of genius.
And if you're not going to do it, who's going to do it?
Right.
We're just going to keep it hidden forever.
Right.
There has to be somebody who blazes trails, who dares to go first, and
Right.
you are that person.
Right.
You might not know about it, but just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's scary. Somebody is going to have to come here and show you that feeling, that there is light, that there is power, that there is something sacred there. If you would just let yourself get curious, give yourself enough space to say, what is that? At the end of the day, you might decide, oh, Akashic Records isn't how I feel in touch with God or spirit or source, and that's totally fine. It is but one really beautiful option in a sea of really beautiful options, and you are the person that is going to open that up for people.
Thank you, Tiana.
No, I mean, I mean that.
I know. And Tiana she was my playground, my practice, my safe space for when I'm like, hey, I'm going to try this. I'm just going to open the Akashic Records. And she's like, okay.
I'm like, cool.
She's like, yeah. And you're right. I am stepping into this place where I want to scream it from the rooftops. Like, hello, this is what I'm doing, after years of trying to hide it, not wanting to tell people. And so for all of you guys listening, I want you to know that you have a voice. And even if you're like, I'm shy, I don't, whatever your beliefs, your opinions, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you feel you've hidden away, I want you to shout it from the rooftops. Because
Totally.
there are people waiting for you.
Totally.
There are people waiting for you, Tiana. There are people waiting for me. There are people waiting for this information. They need it.
100%. They do. And like, if we don't have the courage to sit here and stand up and speak into existence what we know to be true, nobody else will do it. And look, the more that you shout, the louder you get, the more people are going to try and silence you. But what brings me peace is that is so much more about them, their fears. If we want to get scientific with it,
Tell me.
I've been reading a lot. It's this book called Owning Your Shadow by Robert Johnson.
Love.
And it's not scientific, it's psychology.
That's okay.
But he is Jungian in practice as well. And something that was really interesting for me is we always hear about shadow work, right? Our shadow are those parts of ourselves that we cast out, that we say are despicable, shameful, and usually we create our own shadow. And you think about the analogy of like, if you're holding a light, the brighter the light, the more of a shadow it's going to cast, right?
Ooh.
And
okay.
so, but what was interesting for me, because I'm really familiar with shadow work, I know you are too, embracing those parts of ourselves. My shadow says that I'm too loud. Mary, actually our therapist, had me do this exercise where she had me call out that voice in my head that was critical, and she was like, draw it. What does it look like? And I've come to this resolution that it's this very poised, almost Stepford wife woman that has pearls around her neck, not cute pearls like yours, like stuffy pearls.
I know what you mean.
And she is the one that tells me, Tiana, you're being too loud. Tiana, you're taking up too much air from the room. Tiana, like, you were too selfish. And just having that visual of being like, this is Mary, and this is the one who wants to control my shadow, who wants to say, like, it's not good enough, it's not interesting enough, it's getting old, it's not beautiful enough. Just having the recognition of who that is has been so powerful. But something that this book has taught me is that we also do that with qualities that we admire about people. So, you know, I'm trying to think of a good example. Emily Ratajkowski is somebody that I've been really interested in recently. I think she's written a book that's a desire on my heart. She's using her voice to speak. She has a podcast just like you. All of these people in my life, they have media platforms that really inspire me. And it's really easy for me to project onto her to say, oh, you know, she is beautiful. She has a voice and is using it. She is an author, but I'm not, right? Because if we were to actually own those parts of ourselves, there's a certain responsibility that comes with that. It's scary to own the despicable, shameful parts, but it's also scary to own the really beautiful, valiant parts too. And I just think it's really interesting, all of these different facets of ourselves that we want to compartmentalize and put all in all of these tiny, neat little boxes. But something I've been really trying on is that it's all us. It's all part of this beautiful, dynamic, rich human existence that we live. And we've got to be proud of it. We've got to live into it. We've got to honor it and embrace it. And the more we do, the more people are going to try and project their shadow or their hero elements onto us. But we have to be so rooted in who we are to not be weathered by the storm that comes when people start to take notice.
And that's truly what I needed to hear so much, because I feel like the more that I step into it, the more pushback I get. And
I could totally see where that's so.
And so, but it's interesting because instead of being like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Or is this whatever? I'm getting all this pushback. I'm doing something right.
Totally.
I'm doing something right because it's activating people.
100%. It's triggering them.
It's triggering them. And I made a video years ago, like this was like during the quarantine, because I was living in my house off of Weston,
the one we would walk to.
Yes. I literally moved to Weston because Tiana and her husband lived to Weston.
We had the best time during lockdown.
We really did. We just go on long walks in
Yeah.
our neighborhood. I really am rooting for them to move to Florida, like in a serious way. I'm like, you guys should just move to Florida.
Honestly, we need to be next to the beach, so we're taking it into high consideration.
I'm constantly trying to start a compound. I'm like, you guys, we could just start a little neighborhood, a little village.
Oh, I would love that. That's a whole conversation for another day. I'm
Yeah.
like, we just communal. We'll grow our own vegetables.
Yeah, we'll have babies like a clan.
Totally.
That's how it's supposed to be. It takes a village.
Totally.
I will stand by that.
Yeah.
So I made this video back in our old house in Weston, how I realized that more trolls actually means you're making more money.
Oh,
because totally. I realized, and I broke it down to, you're putting yourself out there more and your message is getting further and wider and it's catching up all these people. And I really want to put it on a t-shirt, more trolls equals more money.
Totally.
Because if you realize the Kardashians post, they get crazy engagement, almost a whole comments of people just fighting. And they're just sitting there cashing.
Totally.
They're like, we don't even care, whatever.
I saw a TikTok too recently where she was like, I used to delete all of the hate comments, but now I just leave them because honestly it's more engagement for me. And she's like, let them fight in the comments, because it's not about us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If we are so anchored in our truth and what we're saying, which I know you are one of the people that I know is most rooted in her truth and what she's here to do. And if we're rooted in that, then it's not about them, you know,
Right.
At the end of the day. Of course it is, because we know that our message deserves to be heard. We know that there are going to be so many people that are helped through the Akashic Records, through your podcast, through what you're doing. But if somebody has been so moved to send you hate or, you know, feel like they need to break you down, it just says so much about how they're hurting and where they're at and the parts of themselves that they're denying. I saw a TikTok too recently where she was like, it's just not in style to be a bully anymore. Like, to be a bully is to openly say, like, I don't like myself. And
Truly.
It's very obvious to me, which I don't think there was a point, or there definitely was a point when I don't think I would have been able to say that.
Or had that awareness.
Totally.
Same. And also too, just to tell you guys, I think that this goes for trolls or anyone, and you're your working space,
100%.
your boss, your environment. This conversation, I want you to translate, copy and paste to whatever situation in your life and put this lens on, because sometimes it really just, I have to constantly change my lens through which I see. I say that before I got on the mic. I'm like, I choose to see every situation through the lens of love. I choose to see it through the lens of love. That's just our only option at this point, Anna Grace. You have to keep marching.
100%. And love, people talk about love because it's such a ubiquitous experience. Everybody knows what love is and what it feels like. And I think the important thing is like anchoring back into that love exists inside of us, and it's about honoring and tapping into that. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's really important because we can so easily default to giving that away, giving that power away, giving that rootedness away.
And that's a practice, another practice to give you guys, and Tiana probably knows this too, but anytime a situation is just really ruminating in my head, I always say, you know what? I call back my power. I call back my power from whoever this person is, and I bless them. The number one way to basically break a curse or any type of negative energy that's being directed towards you from someone who's hurting, right, is to light a candle, and you got to focus and send them love and forgiveness, and that will dissolve whatever negative energy attachment is that's happening between the two of you guys. That's just like a very quick little freebie practice that I will bless everyone who's listening with. There are tons of ways to do energetic cord cutting and all the things. We could get really technical with it, but at the end of the day, you can redirect whatever energy. You can call your power back from that person and just send them love and forgiveness.
Totally.
And walk away.
Totally. I'm just looking at you and I'm just thinking about how you are exactly where you need to be, because I love that what could so easily just become a conversation that has no real fruitful action steps, you always draw it back to your audience and something they can take away from it, something they can apply to their lives, something they can learn, which really just affirms for me that you're exactly where you need to be, teaching people about these ways to know themselves through the lens of love and the Akashic Records. And you're so multifaceted and dynamic. It's not just Akashic Records, it's all sorts of bits of light. But I just had that little flash and I just wanted to, words of affirmation, affirm that in you.
Thank you. Well, and I'm glad you said words of affirmation, because you brought us back to what I was saying. I was thinking of you earlier and how I went through and made a list of how everyone in my life who I knew what their main love language is, and how I realized I had this massive light bulb moment, because Tiana was the one that hammered it in my head so much. Like, she was always asking everyone around us. Every time we go to a big dinner, she always asks everybody, like, what's your love language? Like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? And she always comes up with way better questions than that. I'm just giving some examples, but I always think of her as like, she's like always like, I'm a words of affirmation girly. But I love to know how I can show someone love in a way that is best received.
Isn't it so beautiful to know how people love to be loved, so that you can show up for them in that way?
Yes.
Especially because, the people in your life who are important to you, who you love, they're there for a reason. And so it takes nurturing and fostering those relationships. I think love language is a great way to know how people love to be loved. It goes back to what we were saying before. All of these different modalities are just ways to connect with people. I know Enneagram's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Just all sorts of different ways.
Well, the love languages got me because I was thinking how much we have to give ourselves our own love language first.
100%.
That was my manifestation hack, because I realized I was always doing EFT tapping. I was doing physical touch. Physical touch is number one. I need it. Austin will be in the middle of doing something and I'll be like, hey, in 30 minutes, can I just come sit in your lap and you hold me for a minute? And he's always like, okay.
Good for you though, for speaking your needs. We need to do that with people.
And that was a practice. That was a practice.
Absolutely.
Because he's like, I don't quite need physical touch as much, but I want to love you how you need to be loved.
See, and how our partner's going to know that unless we communicate that with them.
Exactly. Yeah. That's been a personal evolution, personal growth. But for me, I realized I always gravitated towards these practices around manifestation that were rooted in my own love language.
It's so true. It's so true. I feel like that's maybe the theme for today is this, like, we have to be that sense of love and support for ourselves. And when you said that, it kind of gave me a light bulb click moment, because I was journaling actually just this morning learning about the gap between where I am and where I want to be, right? And I was like, what am I really desiring? And I think in this infancy stage of creating content, I desire people to see it, obviously, but you know better than anybody, creating content is not just one day you wake up and decide to be an influencer. It is grueling hours. It is a grind. For a long time, you're like shouting into the void, like, are people even listening?
Right.
But you have to keep that vision and that mission true north. And, you know, I was thinking, okay, you know, obviously I want people to see this. I want views. I want all of these things. But what do I really want? And when I started to strip back the layers, I was like, oh, I want to be seen. I want to be validated. But then I was like, well, Tiana, do you see yourself? You know, you want to be seen as somebody who knows themselves, but like, are you sure? Are you affirmed in that feeling that you know yourself? You want to be seen as a successful creator. Do you see yourself as a successful creator? And it really is, you know, all of these things that are disguised as maybe followers. I'm just using the example that feels most resonant to me right now, but, you know, disguised as view counts and all of these things, they're really just deeper. They're leading to deeper realizations about what you're needing to give to yourself. And so it makes so much sense now that I'm thinking about it when you said the love languages, that what I really need right now is to affirm myself, you know, give myself those words of affirmation, even if other people can't see it. Tiana, again, you know you have a voice, you know you have a story, you know you have something worthy to say. Give yourself that love. It's just, I don't know, it's all clicking into place for me.
100%. Well, and it really is so crazy to think I have this love language and I have this need for physical touch, for quality time. But do I spend quality time with myself?
Totally. And like unabashedly say, whatever you want to do right now, let's go out and do it. No, there's all these different ramifications and shoulds and, you know, built up frustrations from our childhood that we project onto the situation that we think we have to act a certain way in.
Right.
And so it's really just about stripping away. I mean, you know, that's what inner child work gets to the heart of. It's like, what does little Tiana, what does little AG need in this moment? And how can we give that to her in a way that's going to feel nourishing and revitalizing and energizing and loving?
And the more that I am in my window of approaching 30, 29. She's fleeting, but I'm so excited because the closer I get to 30, the closer I return to my most authentic childlike version of self.
100%.
It is so crazy how we literally spend all of our 20s just unraveling and trying to just remember, what did I actually want to do when I came into this body?
Totally. But you know what's so like pervasive about your 20s is that like for some reason there's like a confidence where you feel like you know. And you're like, wait, you get to 30 and you're like, wait, I didn't know anything.
I know.
It's wild. But I do want to ask you. Okay. I know this is your podcast and
okay,
you're supposed to be asking questions, but
me.
Just me. So you're in your Saturn return then, right? Are you feeling it? Do you feel like the Saturn return is embodying what everybody says a Saturn return embodies?
Yes, 100%. Also, can you give them a quick explanation of a Saturn return just to your experience?
Totally. I don't know too much about it, but I know you have a couple of Saturn returns in your life, I believe. One around 27 to 30, I believe, and then another one I think in your 50s or 60s, but there's supposed to be these moments. I guess Saturn is a really slow-moving planet, and Saturn is the planet of like limitations and structure and rules. I could be totally botching that, so okay. I'm sure some astrologers can be like, nope, but they'll clarify for us. But it's just supposed to be this period of like immense growth edges, right? Pushing up against the things that feel really hard so that you can open them up, analyze them, inspect them, see if they fit, and then grow into new ways and patterns of existing and doing life. And so it's supposed to be kind of a really uncomfy time, but where we shed a lot of past layers in order to become a new version of ourselves, I think.
Yes, that was a great explanation to the knowledge that I have as well. Astrology is probably the modality I would say I have the least amount of knowledge.
Me too. It's just so layered.
It is layered.
Yeah.
It's like learning another language.
Totally. It's houses, it's planets, it's signs, it's a lot of things.
It is a lot of things, but I do know that the Saturn return as you approach 30, for Tiana, for Juji too, all of us, we have all like we would get coffee and all three of us would cry.
Totally.
At the coffee date. We'd be like, you guys want to get to coffee? All of us would be crying.
Totally. About how hard things were. We're like, it's hard for you? Yeah, it's really hard.
But sometimes it was nice just sitting in the presence of my most loving, non-judgmental friends and be like, is this is this how you feel too?
Totally. And we literally do talk like that.
Okay. And being like, okay. And we made a pact that no matter what happened, if I was in Florida, Tiana was in Nashville, because we know we're all busy, and that's the great thing about us. We all respect each other's time and energy to the nth degree, to the point where I'm like, Tiana, call me.
Totally.
Call me. I know I'm busy, and I know you're busy, but call me, because if it's hard for you, I promise it's hard for me. And I do believe that this Saturn return, maybe you and Juge were maybe a little bit ahead of me.
Mm-hmm. I think, well, Juge is 1 year before me. I'm 1 year before you, and you're 1 year before me. So we're like...
We're in a beautiful...
trio.
Yes. A beautiful just kind of lineage of passing down information to each other. I know, and now Juge is the first to do motherhood. So I'm so excited.
I wonder if it'll happen like that too, again, with motherhood.
I kind of think it will. I bet it goes Juge, then you, then me. I feel that. So
I love it.
We'll be back on and a 1 year anniversary from this, and we'll see where we're at. Tiana's like pregnant.
I'm like, hello.
Anyways, but the Saturn return for me has been truly leaving Nashville and coming into Florida. And I feel I am a completely different person entering 30.
Totally. The universe really said, we're going to give it all to you, and you're going to figure it out. But I promise you will be stronger on the other side for
100%. But she said 29, you think you're feeling fine.
You ain't.
You can play it fast and loose, sister. And there was, people say the dark night of the soul, which oftentimes you have to go there. But I will say that I would not have gotten to this really healthy, happy state of a lot of toxic things needed to leave my life. And it's just uncomfortable. We just don't really want change.
Totally.
We want to stay in the same, even if it's hurting us.
No, nobody wants the uncomfortable parts. Like,
No.
if you were going to look at your life and you'd be like, yeah, well, from 27 to 30, you're going to feel it's going to be really painful. You'd be like, is there a way to opt out of that?
No thanks.
But you know what I've been sitting with, and a idea that I've been trying on, speaking of Saturn returns, because they are oftentimes painful and uncomfy for people, is we need the darkness as much as we need the light. We need these moments where we are tilling the soil, where we are getting our hands dirty, digging up things and inspecting them to say, does this fit? Is this the way that I want to show up in the world, so that we can cast it aside, generate new richness for that soil, and grow something new, grow something that serves us, something that is in our favor, right? And I really think that as painful as the Saturn returns are, and we know, like, I would say the last 3.5 years, which has been my Saturn return, has been the most uncomfortable, the most crying I've ever done. But now that I'm seeing glimpses, I think my Saturn return ends in April, and then there's like a shadow phase. Now that I'm seeing it in hindsight more, I'm like, there's no other way that I could have done that. I would not be the person I am today. I would not know the things I know today if I didn't have those moments. And I hope that that's how my life continues to evolve, because it means we're growing, we're getting stronger, we're getting better. And so, yeah, I mean, as uncomfortable as they are, I think they're really necessary. And so I'm curious this just turns into me interviewing you.
I love it. Keep going.
I'm curious what lessons have come up for you in the midst of moving. You talked a little bit about feminine rage and being angry. What do you feel like if you had to give this Saturn return chapter a title, you would title it to really encompass all that you've been learning?
Ooh, if I had to give it a title, let me think about that. The first thing that came to my head is that the beach heals all.
Ooh, I love that. Tell us more.
Okay, so, well, I feel like there is something to be said when we look around an environment and we can pinpoint all of these different things that our energy is just spilling, right? And that's where I was in Nashville. I would say more so with career-wise. There was just too many things. And I have, my little just creative all over out in the ethers.
Projector self.
And I realized that moving to a new location was an opportunity for true growth and self-development and healing. But I did not realize what I actually was needing the most was grounding, regulating my nervous system, doing physical things in the body. Because, I'm so like, let's meditate, let's go to the Akashic Records, let's do all these things. And then moving to the beach and truly getting rid of all of even the clothes that I was hiding in all these layers. I mean, literally going to the beach and just like wearing a bathing suit and swimming, and like just letting go of all of these things. Even all the amount of fashion content that I was doing didn't really make sense anymore. It was just like, how much can you strip away and just
Still feel grounded.
That was the lesson. And that's so interesting. That was just what came to my head as the beach heals all, because I always tell people it's, you know, it's just like healing portal.
100%. I mean, absolutely. And I think just watching you kind of talk about this process, talk about the beach, talk about the clothes and the things that you needed to shed, it feels so resonant. I can't help but see truth when you speak. And I think it's interesting too that in our dream circle, so many of your dreams had grounding in them as themes and as, you know, little tidbits.
Truly, which is why I do love the dream circle. Predominantly is just other women local to Nashville, but we don't know each other. But it just happened that Tiana and I share a same therapist, because normally, like, you probably don't know all your therapist clients, so
right.
it's like a group of people. I always kind of say it's like going on a blind date, you know.
Totally.
But you're sharing these intimate parts of your life, but it's almost easier sometimes to just be really vulnerable with strangers who, like, you don't really see every day, you know. They're not your coworkers, not anyone.
100%.
But it was so nice too that you were present, because obviously Tiana and I would try to act like we didn't know each other as well as we do, just for the sake of
interesting, Anna Grace.
Tell me
That's
more.
your name again?
Is that your name again? Yeah. I love that you've been able to document this journey kind of with me, and I do want to ask you one question as we conclude. What is your greatest lesson of your 20s, or just something really you wish you could tell your younger self throughout this journey?
Such a good question. There are so many things. Like I wrote a letter to my younger self, and not my 20-year-old self. It was little TT that just really encompassed a lot of what I was going through in the past 3.5 years. And so much of that is probably what I would tell my 20-year-old self too, because, you know, I think when I was younger, I was really bold. I was really confident. I was the girl who practiced her autograph. I was, instead of her like multiplication tables, my mom always says I carried 3 purses, one for beauty, one for money, one for toys. I was just big, you know.
Love that.
I was bossy. I was big. I was in charge, right? And when I was 15, my whole life I wanted to be a singer and I wanted to perform for people. I viscerally remember having moments where I would watch musicians and performers on stage, and it's that feeling, right? You can feel when somebody is in their element doing something from love, and would just cry because I wanted that so much. And so when I was 15, I auditioned for American Idol. This is a really long roundabout way to say, but I promise I'm going to bring it home.
You're doing great.
And I didn't make it. I didn't even make it past like the first 2 minutes. And it was crushing for me. And from 15 to, I want to say 29 and a half, I silenced myself. I didn't sing. I tried to be really good at being what everybody else wanted me to be. I thought, you know, I led with so much conviction when I was younger, and it led me to this place of a closed door. So clearly I'm doing something wrong, right? Maybe if I can get really nuanced and really good at being what everybody else wants me to be, then I'll find my truth. Then I'll find my success, my comfort, my joy, my happiness, my passion. And what I didn't realize is that every single time, in every single moment that I favored somebody else's opinion of me over myself, I was slowly building this wall around me that was protective, sure, but that also was immobilizing. I couldn't express myself.
That cage.
Yes, I couldn't do anything. And so if I had to give advice to my younger self, it would be the first thing that comes to me is something I always say, is that you can trust yourself, Tiana. That even when the world shouts that you are wrong, that you are uninteresting, that you are ugly, that you are long-winded, that you are loud, that you are too bold, that you don't believe the right things, you know who you are and you know what your truth is. Anchor into that. Use that as your true north, because that is the place that will always guide you home. Not these other people, not these other opinions. And even if at the end of the road you are alone, you will always have yourself, and you are love. You are the embodiment of love. So you always have what you need.
Tiana's got to write a book, you guys. She is the most eloquently spoken human I've ever met. And truly, as cheesy as it is, it's always the truth will set you free. It's so true.
Totally. It's like what Lacey says. You know, we both know TBM, but if you own the things about you that you feel are that you have to hide or that whatever, like nobody can use those against you. Somebody says you're too long-winded, you love to hear yourself talk. I already know that about myself. It's because I have something to say.
Exactly.
You know, it's like they can't use that against you.
No. And that's the thing. It's like you're like, I can easily call the power back from that. Goodbye. I know.
Totally.
Lacey is another one we're referencing to be magnetic. She always says, you know, if your business is not growing, where are you hiding?
100%.
I'm like, mic drop.
Yeah, literally.
I was so called out by that. I was like,
and isn't it cool how, you know, life, the universe has all of these little nuggets of like ways to know yourself, like even if they feel painful or like red flags at the time, it's like something's off here. You're not honoring your truth, you're not honoring your own divinity, you're not honoring love. So like, where do we need to recalibrate? Where are you hiding?
ooh, this was so good, Tiana. Oh my gosh, I love you so much.
I love you so much. I could talk to you for hours. I'm like,
I know. I'm like, we just started another one back to back.
Totally.
We're like, we're coming right back.
They're like, we need another guest. We're sick of Tiana.
No, you're always coming back. And also just to like conclude really what you were saying too about this embodiment of love, I just want to leave Tiana and everyone here with the knowledge or the knowing or the trust in yourself that whatever it is, like for me, I call it Akashic Records. You might call it God's plan. You could journal. You could journal scripture and the Bible. You can do whatever it is that you want to do as long as it feels good, it feels light, it connects you to love and connects you to you. And you don't have to label it and you don't have to explain it and you don't have to fit into one category. We are here to, spirituality to me is to connect with myself and knowing myself and being able to love myself, because we can only love to the capacity of which we can love ourselves.
Preach. I'm like, snaps.
Snaps. All of a sudden, we got like a jazz band playing.
Truly. I couldn't have said it better myself, you know, and all of these ways that we want to negate and say, no, you're wrong. This is right. They're just ways that we're trying to protect ourselves and make ourselves feel safe. So what would open up for us? What would be a possibility if we at least just got curious about what those things are, if we are in fact leading with love and leading with this knowledge of ourselves, right?
Absolutely. That's what I tell everyone. As long as the intention is love and you're rooted in love, there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong way to do anything, whether it's energy, whether it's spirituality. And here's the craziest thing. What if we just did it all? What if we didn't call it anything? And what if we just dabbled in it all? What if we just played in it all?
Totally. Like, what if we just let our lives be an expression of love in whatever way that wanted to express in that moment that felt most resonant? What would that look like?
And that's how we're ending today. And that's
goodbye.
And goodbye. But seriously, thanks for coming to class. I hope you guys take notes. Also, Tiana has beautiful journals available. I will link her brand, all of her information within, because as she says, all of our answers truly come from within. And that's the foundation of her brand, her business. Also, her content is just so thoughtful and intentional. And her letters, I'm going to print them all off from her email. I'm subscribed to her newsletter. You guys got to subscribe. And I'm going to print them into a book for Tiana and distribute them to the world, because I'm like, everyone needs these messages. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your time and your energy with us.
Oh, thank you for doing the same and inviting me into this space. I feel so at home here and I just love talking to you. And I'm honestly so proud of you and everything that you're doing to spread love, to spread light to everyone, to help people know themselves. You are just such a conduit for miraculous, beautiful magic. And I just love you so much.
I love you so much. As always, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you feel so called or if it feels aligned, I would love for you to leave me a review here. I always love reading your beautiful thoughts and messages. And also you can find me at Anna Grace Newell on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I will link all of my courses, AG University course curriculum in the show notes, along with if you're interested in booking an Akashic Records reading with me. My scheduling link goes out in my newsletter. It goes out once a month and it's completely free. I would love to have you there. As always, I'm a proud professor and you get an A+ for making it all the way through the end. Love you.